It's one of those things where you have to tell someone a story so you can tell them the story you really want to tell them. That's where I was on Saturday, was trying to explain to her, here's why we're playing Arkansas on
So you
Saturday.
look at Jamie, you say, Jack's stubborn, Jamie. He's stubborn.
There's always that possibility. I'm not going to rule it out.
That stubborn old mule. He just saw them get hammered by Ole Miss, and she's going to roll her eyes and wander off. Like, what in the world? And he not see the game against Ole Miss. I can see Jamie, like, rolling her eyes. Let's go get something for lunch type of deal. Hello and welcome to the Fat Jack Sports Hour. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm your host, the Fat Jack. The weekend is here. It's football season, of course. Basketball going on. We've got soccer kicking back up, and Thanksgiving is coming up on Thursday. Wow, the season has flown by to this point, but a lot of money yet to be made. Let's bring in my co-host from Louisville, Kentucky. Talk about last week, get you some winners for this week. We're turning to the home stretch during the regular season and a huge playoff and bowl season coming up. So let's bring in Mr. Brandon Rush. Brandon, how are you, buddy?
It's 11 weeks until the Super Bowl. So, yeah, there's still plenty of time to turn profit. And this weekend could be an interesting one. There's a lot of interesting games on the slate this weekend, and I'm excited to see what we can conjure up.
You know, it's funny. I was looking at what we've done so far, going back 5 or 6 weeks. It seems like we've had a lot of football season behind us. I mean, we're maybe more than normal. And I don't know why that is. We started out a little bit slow in September, so maybe it's because the last month and a half has been very, very good overall. I mean, we've made back any type of juice, and a couple losses here and there that we'd lost in September, and then a whole bunch more. But it also, we do have a bunch left. And with the added playoff system in college football, there's even more, because we always have the bowl analysis sheet, which we're going to give out for free when people sign up at fatjacksports.com. We have the playoffs. We have the rest of the NFL season, everything going forward. But with the added playoffs in college football, I think there's even more reason to see the substance of everything that's going to be heading forward past Thanksgiving and beyond.
Absolutely. The amount and the magnitude of games that are still to come in December is going to be something I think a lot of people aren't necessarily ready for, especially when you start looking at that first Saturday where there are college football playoff games on campus, sandwiched in between a meaty NFL weekend. I mean, there is a lot still to come.
Yeah, so more reason to go to fatjacksports.com. Get signed up there. This weekend running a deal, which I begrudgingly was going to offer it, but I'm going to offer it. So fatjacksports.com. Sign up this weekend through Monday, and you're going to win this weekend. We're winning 4 out of every 5 weeks on average this week almost. And so it's over 3 out of 4 weeks on average, but not quite to 4 out of 5. But winning, 3 out of 4 during the course of a month, much better than everybody else, much better than the general public, obviously. So building profit. Last week, we did not win. We broke about even. I mean, it depends on what you played. If you played the basketball, you did fine. If you played the UFC, you won money. If you played football, you broke about even. Depends on when you signed up. So, but we're coming off at 10-3, and 11-5, and 11-2. So, I mean, we were due for a push weekend. We had gone 4-1 the 2 previous Sundays up before last Sunday. So, and I'm in the top 100 of the Circa contest, top 100 of the Hilton contest. So, I mean, we're having a great year, but we were due for a little bit of a regression in the NFL. We had exactly that. It wasn't like we fell off a bridge. We had a couple of meaningless touchdowns in the Las Vegas Miami game. Otherwise, we win on Sunday and small profit of the week. So, but if you're sports gambling, you're going to have some weeks where you break even. You're going to have some losing weeks. I know nobody wants to talk about that, but you are. But you're going to have a lot more winning weeks than not when you go to fatjacksports.com. So this week, here's the deal. Sign up through Monday. You're going to win. If you don't, and if you sign up for football, you're going to win in football. If you sign up for football and basketball, you're going to win in football and basketball. You sign up for the UFC, you're going to win in the UFC. If you don't, whatever it is, you get through the end of November in that sport for free. I should throw UFC in there because there is not a UFC card, I don't believe, over Thanksgiving. So that's not going to work. But you'll get the next. If you sign up for UFC this weekend, you don't win, you get the next 2 cards for free anyway. So that was kind of a trick question with that. But the football and basketball, sign up for football, you're going to win. If you don't win, you get all of the games through Thanksgiving weekend when you're over there sitting with your in-laws and they're talking about the election, talking about how their lawn is going to look so pretty this spring, all the things you don't care about, don't want to talk about. you're going to be able to make money for free if for some reason you didn't win this weekend in football, or if you sign up for football and basketball, you'll win in those sports. If you don't, I'm going to give you the rest of the month for free. So go to fatjacksports.com, get signed up today, and start winning money. What jumped out last week, Brandon? We had the big game, obviously, that goes in the SEC every single week, it seems like. We had another big one last week. What jumps out at you overall last week, and before we turn the page to this week?
Yeah, with Tennessee, Georgia, that was a game where, leading up to it, we didn't know if Tennessee's quarterback was going to play. Then he does and goes and plays fine. Tennessee just couldn't find. They didn't ever got that one break that you need to win games in the SEC, especially on the road. Georgia kind of held serve, did what they were supposed to, and they move on to battle another day. NFL, I mean, Bills Chiefs was a fantastic game, and Steelers Ravens was a fantastic game as well. So it was a very entertaining weekend. Even though it wasn't a overall profitable one in football, there was a lot I think we can learn about last weekend and apply it to the next 9 weeks of the regular season.
We have so few losing weeks that it wasn't like it was a bad week. We went 3-3 on Saturday. I mean, we won Friday night. I mean, it wasn't like, let's say, when we talk about losing week, guys, it's nothing like your losing week. When you're out there when you're going 2-9 or 3-8 or whatever. The general public got hammered again last week on Saturday. So I feel like we should always differentiate between what I'm talking about, what we're talking about. We talk about a down week, and what the general public is. All right, so 60% bets or less. Well, last week we went 3-3 on Saturday. We won Friday. We're 10-3. Was taping the show on Monday, so there's not a lot of regression going on here at the service. It's just not. On Sunday we went 2-3, so lost half a game or whatever. So not a big deal. And basketball swept on Sunday. But last week for the general public, if you're out there playing on your own, popular bets with over 60% on them, Brandon. Oregon, Louisville, Tennessee,
Oof.
Notre Dame, Texas, LSU, Kansas State, Ohio State. Those range between 82% on Oregon, 75% on Louisville, 72% on Tennessee, 71% on Notre Dame, all the way down to 62% on Ohio State. So every one of those bets had the vast majority of the money and the handle on them. You know what the record are for those, Brandon? Any idea?
Right off the top of my head, I think Notre Dame's the only one that covered.
Notre Dame did not cover. They were 22.5.
Okay.
And they won by 21. It was a backdoor bad beat.
Louisville went to Stanford and just absolutely laid an egg. Florida thumps LSU.
We had Florida, by the way.
Yeah.
We had Arkansas.
Yep.
You like either one of those? You like either one of those when they came out? You enjoyed both of those?
The Arkansas one I understood because we were on Arkansas in a very similar spot a couple of weeks ago against Ole Miss, and I kind of think that's how this game played out. How I think we thought the Ole Miss game was
exactly right.
Yeah. So when that one came out, I wasn't surprised, but
you're paying more attention to that than a lot of people are. Most people just would be like rolling their eyes. Oh my God, Arkansas is horrible. They just got beat by Ole Miss. And
trust me, when I was laying out picks for the weekend, Jamie looked at me, Arkansas. Arkansas, was just kind of befuddled about it, and I had to explain to her, why, and so I had to tell her what happened a couple of weeks ago. So it's one of those things where you have to tell someone a story so you can tell them the story you really want to tell them. That's where I was on Saturday, was trying to explain to her, here's why we're playing Arkansas.
So you look at Jamie, you say, Jack's stubborn, Jamie. He's stubborn.
There's always that possibility. I'm not going to rule it out.
That stubborn old mule. He just saw them get hammered by Ole Miss, and she's going to roll her eyes and wander off. Like, what in the world? And he not see the game against Ole Miss. I can see Jamie like rolling her eyes. Let's go get something for lunch type of deal. Yeah, I bet it for the exact same reason. Flat spots for a team that is not as well rounded as the general public. There's a lot more to it than that. But essentially, people be like, "Why? What did you see either game?" Here's what Texas is, Brandon. They're Penn State, Texas, Penn State, a number of other teams that have a very good record, are in the top 2 or 3 in the country, top 5 in the country, whatever. But they have not beaten a ranked team or a really good team, other than one. So we have Georgia that went to Texas, and everything went well for Texas in that game.
Yeah.
Nothing went well for Georgia. So you factor that in. You also look at that a little bit when you're talking about the other side of that. Arkansas played Ole Miss. Everything went wrong that could for Arkansas. Everything went right with Ole Miss. Ole Miss is a very good team. Then
Hmm.
Arkansas became one-dimensional. I'm not saying Arkansas is great. All
No.
right, I saw what happened. And if you watch the game on Saturday, for the first half, probably you're like, I still hate this. You're like, I'm in it.
Yeah.
I see it, but I hate it. I don't want to watch the next drive or two because this thing could be 4 touchdowns. Arkansas is a flawed football team, but you're getting value with the number. And by the way, it wasn't the only sharp on them. They were open at 14. We didn't get 14. I saw it at 12 and a half at times.
Yeah. I think it closed at 12.
Yeah,
12 and
so
a
I
half.
mean,
Yeah.
it was down. I bet it at 13 and a half. So I felt okay when they were down 10 and driving, and I knew if they
Hmm.
didn't get but I did think, oh god, here we go. They're going to kick a field goal. It's going to end up on 13, and I'm going to have 50 jackasses that signed up 5 minutes before the
Before
game
kickoff.
started,
Yeah.
and they got it at 12, and I'm going to have to explain line movements and tell them to read the recommended bet, all those type of things. So
There
didn't
was
have
a
to do that, thankfully.
situation, yeah, luckily. There was a situation though that came up in that game that I would love to pick your brain about. So Arkansas plus the points against Texas at home as an underdog. There was a point in the third quarter where it's a 10-point ball game. Arkansas kind of got themselves back in it. Texas got the ball back. And in my brain, I was like, I should probably cash out of this bet.
Yeah.
So and that's obviously something that wasn't even an option 5-10 years ago, because not everyone was betting on apps. You had to sit there, hold that ticket until the game went final, and then sometimes wait 15-20 minutes after the game gets final before you even get your money. The ability to cash out of games for someone who is paying attention, how do you feel as a sports bettor about that? And then two, how do you feel about a handicapper about that?
So I've been doing this for 25 years, 27 years, and been very, very successful at this for 20 years or more. And the betting part, and
Mm-hmm.
to where my numbers are very, very big, and I have built up a ton of profit. So I look at each individual game. I haven't thrown a remote in decades.
It's been a
I,
while since I've heard stories of you embedding a remote into a wall.
yeah, I haven't banged a table. I haven't done any of the things that I think the average gambler is inclined to do when their career is a losing gambler
Mm-hmm.
and they have a bad thing happen. I have not done that. Don't do that. And don't even consider doing that. And I get more mad about if I have $10,000 on Texas or on Arkansas and they lose that on a bad beat, I get more nauseated about the $50 guy that I know signed up for the night. And it's just so stupid. And my wife says this. My family rolls their eyes and says, it's gambling. Why do
Mm-hmm.
you care?
Mm-hmm.
You can't be responsible for the last year, week, whatever of a losing gambler that signs up and then he gets upset because something bad happens in sports gambling. I'm beating something that nobody beats, and they'll say, "What are you upset for?" And my brain immediately goes to that guy that sitting on his own, losing for months at a time, signed up for $99, and then he gets a bad beat. Now he's 0-1, and it didn't happen. But so I do, but here's my point, Brent. I don't that bet I don't care about. I look at it so long term now, years and years and years. So it's like having a pile of pennies over in the corner of the floor and then having two pennies in front of me, one for Texas and one for what was the other game we won early? Tulane? Yeah, they won
Yep.
by
Yep.
1,000.
Tulane won by a bunch over Navy. Yeah.
45. So having two pennies sitting out there, and then after the game is over, I either throw one penny in the trash or throw one penny in the pile of pennies over there on the floor and add it to the pile. So to answer your question, I don't even consider cashing out because it's not good numbers wise. We talk about parlays a lot
Sure.
and
Sure.
2-team, 3-team, 4. You're never getting back. The numbers are not guessed by the sports book, by the people setting those numbers. They When you're cashing out, if you bet $100 and they're going to give you $84, the win probability of that team, or they're going to give you $184, whatever, 184. The win probability of that team should probably be getting you $192 or $193. So if that makes any sense, so you're
Right.
not
So
going to get back.
you're already taking less.
You're
Just I
taking
mean, you're already, you can't go broke making profit, but at the same time, you're kind of cutting your nose to spite your face because you're not getting everything that you possibly could.
But for me, I don't ever think about it because
Right.
I'm not in
Right.
the business of giving away free money on something that has a high win probability, even though they're going to give me win money, but they're not going to give me as much as I deserve. I'm not in the business of that. I do totally understand it, unlike parlays that I do not understand at all. The math is not there. You're going to lose money betting on parlays, period. There's no way, unless you play one, you win, and you quit. You're never going to make money long-term betting on parlays. So I totally get a guy that has a bankroll, and he doesn't have a pile of pennies sitting in the corner, and he needs that money for the next bet, or he just doesn't want to sweat it out.
Yeah.
This is fun. We're not A lot of people aren't doing this to make their living. They have a job,
Mm-hmm.
and so they're making money. They're just trying to have a good time. So if you want to take somebody wants to take $82 versus $94 and not have to sweat the last 4 minutes of a good team going up against a bad team with the football, I totally get it. So it's a kind of a long answer to an easy question. Mathematically, long term, not great. If you're doing it every once in a while because you just feel better doing it, then I would say do that. So the good news is that you're having these opportunities when a lot of guys have Texas in that spot.
Mm-hmm.
There is no hedging out of Texas when they're down 10, or cashing out, unless you're cashing out for less.
Well, and that's the flip side of that. Let's say you have a team who is like a team like Louisville, who went to Stanford as a 20-something point favorite, and they go and lay an absolute egg, and you're given a cash out option that's 10% of your original wager. 10% is better than zero. So, I mean, in that sense, when you're on the losing side of it, I think it makes sense to cash out and just collect it and say, hey, move on, you go about your day. Whereas if you're in a position where you can win the full bet, cashing out may not be the best option.
If you are positive you're going to lose,
mm-hmm.
then take the 10%. But
salvage everything you can.
But it's just going to take one of those to come all the way back. Because there was a time, let's just take the Texas game versus Arkansas. There was a time early in that game when Texas was, every series was 3 and out for Arkansas. Texas was, I forget their biggest lead, but whatever it was, at that point, I think the first quarter they were up 10 or 14 points, right? Maybe 14, right. 13 points. Anyway, they were up a lot. That cash out would have been 14, 15%. So think about all the money that was left on the table with all that game left, even if you had waited until late to make that decision. So there's all these ifs and buts. It's personal preference. If you're not doing it for a living, then cash out if you want. That's kind of my advice. Mathematically, long-term, not a great idea. Go to fatjacksports.com, sign up. That is a great idea, especially this week. You win or you get next week for free. The reason I started, that's the longest way back to that package, but the reason I didn't want to offer this package is because last week I had a guy that emailed me and said, Jack, Miami is not on the results tab. I didn't get Miami. Yeah. So my response, I don't know why I'm still getting some emails. Every once in a while one slips by the goalie because I don't want to get these stupid emails.
No.
Jack, Miami, I didn't get Miami, and you said Miami was a win. So my response is, which is so much worse than yours, is so here's the question. How long do I spend proving to you that Miami was sent? What is my obligation to one guy to show him that a game that he just has omitted some way and stop doing what I'm doing, which is handicapping, getting ready for the NFL, getting ready for players props. At that point, I was doing a lot of players prop stuff. It was Saturday morning. And so the other thousands of clients that have my attention, how long am I willing to stop working for all of them and myself, namely, and go back and prove to this idiot that he has just omitted, he's forgotten that he got Miami, he received Miami. He wasn't accusatory at all, but that becomes the thing. So I went and I spent 5 seconds, because it literally took that long with the new email system. I just basically typed in Miami and it pulled up when it was sent out. I forwarded him that. And, oh, yeah, sorry about that. I didn't. Wow. I mean, I don't know what
you can't please everybody, unfortunately.
The point,
you can go 12-0. Someone's going to be upset about something.
That's the point, is that even after an 11-3, whatever we went the week before, I'm getting emails from people. If they're not accusatory, they're still inquiring about something that they think is shady.
Questioning the integrity of what it is that we do.
After 27 years, you got one. I saw you responded to one last week. Oh, because we take stuff off the portal, and that's a conscious decision. If you have the portal. And I'm getting back to why I don't want to offer this package this weekend, even though I'm going to offer it. And then we're going to give away a free winner. Then we're going to take a break. We're going to get back on football. But the reason I don't want it is because we take them off the portal, because guys will go in there, and just because you're not one of those doesn't mean that this doesn't happen, because this happens, and then we get emails. Somebody will go in there, and let's say Pittsburgh was whatever it was. We lost Thursday, so whatever that was, Philly over. What it doesn't matter. I'll put Philly over. Some guy will go into his portal. He'll look on that. He'll think that it's basketball. He'll think it says
Mm.
248. He'll play Philly over, and then he'll say, "I thought I saw Philly over." Philly. Da, da. If you get an email with the information, when we take it out of the portal, it goes on the results tab. So it's not like we've omitted it from the website. It just moves over to the results tab because you can't bet on it. The
Yeah,
game's
after
over.
the
It's
game's
gone.
if the game's kicked, sometimes the picks will still be up. But I mean, if it's Thursday night at 10 o'clock, you can't bet that game.
They're
Yeah,
going to
we've
be
moved
up.
it.
Yeah, they're going to be up when you can still bet on it because people sign up. But once the game's over, you can't go. You don't have a DeLorean. You can't go back and bet the Philly total later. So we're not going to do that. We're not going to leave that up because all it does is confuse people. We're going to move over the results tab. Here's why I don't want off the package this week, but I'm going to, is because I will win. We're going to win. 99% chance we don't lose 2 weeks in a row, so we're going to win.
Hmm.
And when we do, I'm going to have people that are going to say, "Well, I didn't go 8-3. I went 6-5." Or
I
I
I
thought that,
got I got this line at 4.5 instead of 3.5, and I
and I
lost.
I played your free winner that was on the on Twitter, or I played this, or I listened to you and
Or
Jim and I played those 5. I mean,
well, I didn't like the Arkansas pick, so I didn't bet it.
that will happen. And
Yeah,
I'm not going to respond to any of them. I told Karen as of November 1st, or
yeah,
December 1st, it's supposed to be December 1st. I want no emails of any kind from
they
customer
all come to me.
service at all, because I don't have time. The other clients that don't ever email me about ridiculous things, they don't want me spending any time. And frankly, my mental health is worth more. So go to fatjacksports.com, get signed up this weekend. You're going to win. And when you do, you're going to hopefully get signed up for a longer package. If you don't, then you're going to get through the end of the month for free. So go to fatjacksports.com, sign up today. All right, this weekend, Brandon, when we look at, we take a break. Let's look at.
We need to get in a break because
All right.
there are some even though the SEC kind of has their light week where they play like Mercer or the Citadel, there are some very entertaining games and some crucial games in the Big 12.
I was going to say, Ole Miss, Florida, a double-digit number. There's some interesting lines on these things, too, because Florida's proving that they're better than people thought.
Mm-hmm.
And Ole Miss is really good also. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about a lot of college football. Next segment, nothing stupid. We're just going to do football. And it's only going to be college football. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. You're listening to the Fat Jack Sports Hour.
This is Brandon Rush from the Fat Jack Sports Service. If you want to stay in touch with everything related to the Fat Jack, follow us on all the socials: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, you name it, we are there at Fat Jack Sports. You can also watch the Fat Jack Sports Hour on YouTube every week. Get free winners and tips on how to become a better sports bettor. Plus, see Jack's appearances on the nationally syndicated TV show Beat the Odds. Stay connected with the Fat Jack Sports Service at Fat Jack Sports on all the socials and on YouTube.
Hey guys, this is the Fat Jack. Are you finally ready to get a better plan betting the games this year? Let me help. Go to fatjacksports.com, where we understand that it's not the gambling she hates, it's the losing. fatjacksports.com.
The Fat Jack Sports Hour, and now here is our host, a man who can now check off seeing Mike Tyson naked off his bucket list. He is the Fat Jack.
Thank you so much, Brandon. Fat Jack Sports Hour, segment number 2. Getting you ready for this pre-Thanksgiving football and basketball weekend. Fire up for that, and you are right. Friday night was kind of an out-of-body, like a dream. One of those dreams where you wake up the next day and you say, I was sitting there and I was really upset about this woman's boxing match results, and then all of a sudden Mike Tyson's ass is out. I mean, it's just a weird Friday night,
Yeah, there's that is one that you will not ever experience again. I'm going out on a limb.
Yeah, I talked to a couple of the sharp players, and it was a missed opportunity from the gambling perspective. I'll tell you, Brent, I had $10,000 on Jake Paul, and I debated and debated whether to send out any portion of that to anybody. And I went back and forth, and then I ended up, the UFC guys got about an even money bet. And the reason I didn't send it out, now it looks like a layup. Should have mortgaged the house and bet it all. But the reason I didn't is because I don't trust the process with what Jake Paul does. it's all a money grab. It has nothing to do with sports. So he's fighting Mike Tyson because Mike Tyson is 58 years old. And I said this last week on the show. Who's going to fight next? Evander Holyfield or Sugar Ray Leonard? I mean, those type of things. I tongue in cheek said this is not fair. Jake Paul is a good boxer. Now, is he a good boxer that can fight within his weight class to other boxers? Probably not. But he doesn't have to do that. He's not doing that. He made $40 million for that fight. And it was the most, and by the way, Tyson made $20 million.
Right.
It was the most watched and uploaded whatever fight in the history of boxing. So think back to all of the other ways, all the other fights, boxing matches, and those things. This was the one. This fight between a 58-year-old man and a YouTube guy turned boxer was the most watched boxing match ever.
Every day we stray further away from God's path.
Right, and I can't take not only a lot of my money. That's 10K. It's one bet for me, and so I'm like, listen, I can't. And I said I'm going to bet this because I cannot stomach. I told my daughter's here, and she wanted a piece of the action. I said no. She wanted even money. She's fighting with me about it. She wants Jake Paul at even money. I said no. So then she stormed off. But anyway, the reason I bet, and I told her, I said the real reason I'm betting this is because I can't stomach Jake Paul knocking out literally the boxing legend in my lifetime, and me not having any money on it. So this way I was going to be happy either way. Either I was going to make a few $1,000s or Mike Tyson was going to beat Jake Paul up. And I would have been okay either way with that. It goes back to that pile of pennies over there and how much I care about Arkansas and Texas.
Because conversely, I couldn't bet it because I did not trust that Mike Tyson wouldn't go off script.
Yeah, that's true. He could have done a million things, and it would have at least evened the playing field. But the common thinking was he's either going to knock him out in the first round or so, or it's 58-year-old stamina is just not there. And even with 2-minute rounds and all those things. And I will tell you, I thought overall it was an entertaining fight. I mean, I know everybody's mad about it, but what were you expecting? I mean, you got a 58-year-old dude fighting, But yeah, so far we've spent no time on football, but.
Sorry.
Yeah, but I enjoyed the evening actually. As far as a spectator deal, I thought the wrong girl won the fight before, but I thought it was pretty good. All right, so this weekend football, Brandon, what are we looking at? I know I mentioned the Florida game before the break. I think that Florida's sneaky good. This being double digit just shows Ole Miss is a terrible matchup for a lot of teams because Ole Miss does a lot well up front defensively. They get you in one-dimensional situation. Florida cannot do that. We've seen that. They lose when they have to throw it, can't throw it.
Yeah, and Ole Miss is really good at getting leads because of the way their offense operates. So
exactly, this is going to be. We're going to have controversy, and I said we got this 12-team playoff, but we were going to. If you're the 13th team, I don't want to hear it. Was kind of my overall standing going in. We're going to have a 13th or 14th that are going to have a gripe.
We're going to have a 16th team, I think, that might have a gripe.
That's what I mean.
Especially this, as convoluted as the SEC is, it's a 4-horse race in the Big 12 with 3 games to play. I mean, this thing can get really interesting down the stretch. And if Army somehow defeats Notre Dame this week and Boise somehow stumbles to Wyoming, what happens then? There is still the opportunity for mayhem.
I'm all for the best, and by the way, let's break down a couple games, but I'm all for the best of the non-power 5s or power 4s getting in. I'm all for that.
Absolutely.
As a rule. This year though, it's going to get in the way. Even if Army beats Notre Dame, which I don't think they will, they're 16-point underdog. But even if they do, I think that we're going to leave some teams out this year that are a team or 2 teams that could win because who's the best team, right? Who's number 1? That's the thing. In the past,
we've asked that for like 6 weeks now.
Exactly. There's a lot of parity this year in college football. A great year to expand the playoff for sure. 12 is better than 4 because otherwise we're going to have a bunch of teams that were really good being left out. But there is not a great team. Normally in the past we've had either Alabama or Georgia, or sometimes both, and maybe an outlier in Washington or somebody at Texas out of the Big 12. Those type of teams that were superior to most everybody else. And so you're like, okay, well, as long as they get in, I'm okay. There's not that team this year. On neutral side, there's not any team that is not beatable by another group of teams, not just 1 or 2. It's not any given day. Yeah, so it's going to make great drama once we get to the playoff. But yeah, It's going to be the Big 12 champion. I mean, I'm kind of pulling for Colorado now. I like Kansas. Should have released Kansas.
Yeah.
Released Kansas the week before. Released Kansas the week before that. Jumped off them because they were at BYU, and I just didn't. I didn't trust that. But
I have 6 futures bets on college football champions, and 4 of them, Jack, are in the Big 12. Because at this point, it is it's a deep race between, like you mentioned, Colorado, BYU is still in it, Iowa State still is somehow involved, and Arizona State out of nowhere is still alive to play in the the Big 12 championship game. So you
and
got to at least leave that window open.
honestly, all of those I would put in the exact same category as Boise State and Army.
Mm-hmm.
None of those teams, including Colorado, would be a great story, and I'm kind of
Sure.
pulling for them now. I will tell you, I should admit, I was wrong about Deion's ability to turn a program around. I still don't believe long term what he's doing will work. I think having his kid and his kid's friend who's going to win the Heisman helped. And they did go out and get the right pieces. Offensive line much better. They're winning the line of scrimmage in this, diluted Big 12. So I like what he's done. I don't know how sustainable it is, but that may be just me being pessimistic about his style. Because
to that point, though, when Shedeur Sanders is in the NFL next year, is Deion going to be dedicating 60, 70, 90 hours a week to a college football season? Is he going to take an NFL job? I mean, there's talk that he may end up with the Dallas Cowboys. Like, who knows what's going to happen next year? So yeah,
there is no telling. Yeah,
done a great job of turning the program around, though. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely going the right direction. Texas Tech, Oklahoma State. Texas Tech 3.5 point favorite at OSU. OSU has no Big 12 wins. They get their first Big 12 win this week.
No, probably not. Tech is salty bunch. They're a tough out. They should have beat Colorado a couple weeks ago at home. They had their chances, but I mean, that's a program that is always a tough out. So I don't think that Oklahoma State can get it done this week.
What's funny is if Mike Gundy, this is that year where we felt like the last 3 or 4 years would be. They get to the point where they're not any good, and we're like, this team's not any good. We should be betting against them. And then they would figure out a way to get it done, figure out a way to rally the troops and circle the wagons and get it done. He coming off a bye, they should be better equipped, but they can't tackle anybody. And I don't know that you learn how to tackle in a bye week. I mean, you get a little healthier, but that's the problem. 3.5 points would worry me, but OSU's been one of those teams that line setters like, because fundamentally they're generally sound, and they're not sound this year. And so that's really a bad spot if you're putting you want to put your money on them, because they're they're not very sound. Missouri down to a 7.5 point favorite at Mississippi State. I only mention that because that line a couple of weeks ago would have been 21.
Double digits, yeah.
I mean, it would have been a bunch. So you're actually probably getting some value with Missouri. They probably get their quarterback back this week. We talk about Ole Miss and Florida. Ole Miss 11-2 their last 13 games straight up. Florida's covered 6 of 7. And Ole Miss is holding everybody down offensively. So, and I think that's what Florida needs. Is they're going to need to be able to hold the Ole Miss offense down, but Ole Miss under 8 of their last 9 games. So defensively, they're doing more than enough to win, and then their offense is taking off. They're a dangerous team. Them and Tennessee both are very similar in what they're doing. They're good offensively, but really good defensively. And that'll win you some games in December or January, so especially with this new playoff system, because you don't have to play well offensively every week. Can they beat the top tier? I don't know. Brandon, if you had to take the SEC or everybody else to win the national championship, who do you like there?
I would take the field between, say, Oregon, Ohio State, and maybe a wild card team like a Notre Dame or whoever wins the Big 12. I mean, this would be the year, because of everything is so dramatically different than it was even 2 to 3 years ago. I think full on anarchy is amongst us in college sports. And this is the year where someone outside the status quo makes a run. And it's weird to say that Ohio State's outside the status quo, considering what they've done over the last 2 decades. But to me, it just feels like the SEC, while yes, is as a whole better than all the other conferences. Like we said earlier in the segment, there isn't like one team that's like the team. So if there isn't an established king, then everyone has a shot.
Yeah, it's wide open. I would probably take the SEC. I feel more comfortable with Georgia or Alabama or Ole Miss or Texas, one of those teams. Not necessarily Texas right now. I'm off them a little bit, but Feel better with them in a big game, in a big spot against the other remainder. And Oregon is certainly that outlier for me, but I probably still take the SEC. Colorado, free winner number one comes out of this Colorado-Kansas game. Colorado, small favorite, playing Kansas. Colorado 5-0 against the spread their last 5. They've won 7 of 8. Kansas gotten hot. 4 of their last 5 they've covered. I actually like Kansas here. I think that they beat Deion. This is a Jalen Daniels is healthy. He is dangerous, and the reason I'm releasing this to free winners because I don't want to bet on it. I've bet against Colorado 2 or 3 times over the last, probably 4 times over the last 2 years. I think I'm 1-3 against them, and I don't enjoy watching it. They are so dangerous. And they'll go from nothing to everything very, very quickly. But I do think it says a lot that they're only a 2.5-point favorite on the road.
Well, 2 wins in a row against ranked teams, and they're a play away from having 3 straight after they lost to K-State earlier in November. So, yeah, I mean, you look at the collection of wins that they have over the last month or so. It would not be surprising to see Kansas jump up there, and then they need to win out to go to a bowl game. I don't know if that's motivation for the Jayhawk program, but they're playing this game at Arrowhead, so I don't know if that factors in at all. But that's interesting considering the way Colorado's played of late. I like it.
Yeah. I think at Kansas, you worry about going back to the well one too many times. Teams do not, generally speaking, the same formula will not get you into the winner's circle week after week after week. And one of the formulas that's been getting not only us but Kansas there is Kansas has played ranked team after ranked team as a small underdog 3 weeks in a row now, and 2 of those we played. So I'm back at the well. And if you played them this last week, knocking off the undefeated BYU team, you're 3-0 to the same exact handicapping trend. And that's one thing in sports gambling you can't generally do. You can't go back to the well so many times. Well, this team's undervalued, and this team's a small favorite, and that team's ranked. Let's go get another one. Eventually that catches up. But I also see people saying, you know what, Sanders is great. Other kid's going to win. Travis Hunter's going to win the Heisman. Yep. Deion's got him going. They're going to make it to the playoff. I love this. And Kansas still only has 4 wins. They look at that win-loss record. They don't really look beyond that. They don't care about Daniels or any of that. But I'm playing Kansas. I like Kansas here. I like them at Arrowhead. I like them at home. I like them anywhere except Colorado, and I don't want to bet on it. So that's why it's your first free winner of the day. FatJackSports.com, guaranteed winning weekend. Sign up this weekend for football or sign up for football and basketball. You will win between now and Monday. If you don't, you get the rest of the month for free. All the way through the holiday weekend, all those Thanksgiving Day games, Friday games, all through the weekend, through that Monday night, for free, getting you into profit before we head into December, the playoffs, conference championships, all the different things that are coming up here just in a week or so away. You're going to get that for free. So go to FatJackSports.com, sign up for the longer packages. I had the $99 special last week again. It went over great. Everybody signed up for it. If you sign up through the Super Bowl, you're paying a lot less than $99. I don't know how many times I can say that. If you divide out the weeks between now and the Super Bowl by the price you're paying, which is $8.99, there's more. You said there's 11 weeks between now and the Super Bowl, right, Brandon?
Yep.
It's $900. So you pay $900. You get all the bowl games, all the NFL playoffs, all of the college football playoffs, everything, the bowl analysis sheet, all for about $70 a week. If you know math at all, do that. Go sign up, get through the Super Bowl, pay $70 a week, not $99 a week, which you think is a deal. And certainly don't pay for a guaranteed weekend package if you're going to plan on gambling next week. Because if you're going to gamble next week after we win, you're going to pay more this week and more next week when you could get everything through the Super Bowl and pay less. Go to FatJackSports.com, sign up today and win. How are we doing on time?
We need to get into a break after this, though. NFL is a tricky one because there's good teams versus bad teams and bad teams versus bad teams. But also, Indiana, Ohio State. Is there any drama there?
We spent no time on that at all. So I got a good trend for you in the NFL on what you're talking about, the feast versus famine type games coming up this weekend. Hopefully make some guys some money doing that. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Hey guys, this is the Fat Jack. Are you finally ready to get a better plan betting the games this year? Let me help. Go to fatjacksports.com where we understand that it's not the gambling she hates, it's the losing. fatjacksports.com.
Welcome back to the Fat Jack Sports Hour. And now here is our host for the final time before Turkey. He is the Fat Jack.
Thank you so much, Brandon. Fat Jack Sports Hour, segment number 3. Now heading into the latter part of November. We're winning almost 4 out of every 5 weeks on average, making money betting on sports. Most people out there are not. Go to fatjacksports.com, go to the results tab, look at every week, add up the wins, add up the losses. You're going to see if you would just sign up for the year, follow our system, you'd be making money. Basketball was feast or famine last week.
Mm-hmm.
We were either 2 or 3-0, 0-2 or 3. 2 or 3-0, 0 or 2 or 3.
No in between. It was feast or famine. And that's, this time of year you kind of expect that, especially with a college basketball heavy slate, because A, it's college, kids. B, it's November. These games don't necessarily mean as much. If you're Tarleton State playing at Baylor, you're probably not overly motivated to play.
He got over.
Barely.
Oh, I cared. Barely. That's right. That was
if Tarleton State scored 13 points in the first half. So yeah, that was a tough one.
It's tough because of that. I knew Baylor was going to have their way offensively. There'd be a million layups. All Tarleton State was make a few shots. I mean, They literally, and they did. I mean, they eventually got there by a point or so at the end. But I was just rolling my eyes. What kind of college team has practice all during the offseason, has the midnight madness crap, and then goes out and scores 13 points? I mean, are these college basketball players? What is going on? I mean, the whole thing was ridiculous, but they did finally get there. This time of year, it's important to instill in guys that we bet basketball differently.
Mm-hmm.
You bet less, and you bet less because of exactly what happened last week. You're going to have a bunch of good days that go way up and then down. Now, generally, it's not that violent of swings. You're not going to have, and luckily, it was mainly one day up and then one day down. It wasn't like 3 days up and 4 days down. So I ended up breaking about even last week. Did sweep on Sunday, swept Monday, swept Wednesday, 2-1 Saturday, 2-0 Sunday. So I could have come on and said, "Hey, we went 4-1 over the weekend in basketball."
And for whatever reason, it may just be a fluke, but those Sunday basketball picks have been ridiculous of late.
Sunday, Monday, both have been great.
Yeah.
Monday, I think we're 5 or 6-0. I think it was Monday last week out because the week Monday before that we were 3-0 for sure. So I think it was Sunday, Monday this last week that we did really well, and then Tuesday lost, Wednesday won. I think it went like that. But anyway, you go look at the results tab. You don't even have to guess because they're all posted right there, fatjacksports.com. Get signed up. As I said, go through the Super Bowl. You're paying about $70 a week. All of the NFL, all the college, a bowl analysis sheet, everything. All right, let's look at this week's NFL. Brandon, double-digit favorites in the NFL. They are
historically not good, especially if it's a higher double digit, if it's 14, 15, 17 points.
This year, double-digit favorites in the NFL, 5-0, straight up and against the spread, and are covering by an average of 16 points. Covering by an average of 16 points per game.
Yeah, last week if you had Jacksonville plus 44.5, I'm sorry, you still lost.
And if you're with us, you had Detroit. It was easy. It was a top pick. You signed up for the top pick. You got Detroit. Nobody had to earn that. They won 1,000, and Detroit's been involved in 2 or 3 of those. By the way, they've been, and so that's something to look at. When Detroit is a team, and I said this around the country, they don't know how to take their foot off the gas pedal offensively. So if you can't score, and Jacksonville is in that group of teams, normally double digits as we head into November, December. If you can't score, you're in trouble. Now I would have that trend could reverse this week for sure, and I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to talk about on the TV show this week, and I think I'm going to talk about the reversing of that trend. But right now, they're 5-0 against the spread and straight up and covering by a ton of points. But when you're laying double digits and you're the Chiefs, that is not an offensive dynamo, and it has nothing to do. I thought it's not horrible. They lost last week. Doesn't mean they're not going to the Super Bowl, blah, blah,
Right.
blah. Only people that benefit from that were the 72 Dolphins, and I think basically the Chiefs benefited from that because you don't want to go undefeated late and then have that added pressure, especially when you're not great offensively. But they're given 10.5. The other team given 10.5. The Commanders, they're better offensively, but we're going to find out with this Dallas team. They were 7-point underdogs on Monday night. We're talking about what to do with that. I mean, there's a chance that reverses itself. So don't just fall into that, hey, double digits NFL auto bet the favorite. It's been a great play to this point. Expect that to revert back a little bit going forward. What's the game that jumps out at you? This is kind of a lighter Sunday schedule because we end up having teams playing on Thursday. We have the games coming up Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So we have more teams on the bye this week. So what do you think? What's the game jumps out?
The interesting one for me is going to be Denver at Vegas. AFC West matchup. Denver playing a lot better than I thought that they were even capable of, because after dispatching Russell Wilson and turning to a rookie who I wasn't that big of a fan of in college, Sean Payton's done a nice job with that team, has them, if the playoffs started today, Denver would be in the playoffs, which is a wild thing to think about. I'm curious to see if they can sustain this kind of success that they had of late, like I said, with a rookie quarterback, and going to a place where historically they have not done well, and not only in Vegas, but also against the Raiders as a franchise as a whole. That dispatching of the Falcons last week, I did not see coming. Not a 32-point home win.
Who's done a better job in the state of Colorado at coaching? Deion Sanders or Sean Payton?
Ooh,
I mean, you might not even be the best coach in your state. You've done a great job. So
you've taken a team that hasn't been to the playoffs in almost a decade to, I mean, right now in a playoff spot. And then, yeah, you're right, just up the road a bit, former NFL Hall of Famers kind of still in your spotlight a little bit.
Yeah, both of them going the right way. I tell you, there's a few of them that I'm looking at the circle on my card. Monday night is a good one, thankfully, because this last Monday night was obviously not. Baltimore giving 3 to the Chargers. Chargers get by Cincinnati on Sunday night. Another missed opportunity. I actually, this, but almost I sent out part of the release to the over in that game. Had to go back and fix it because I didn't want to go deeper into Sunday's card. Didn't love it. But anyway, ended up getting over easily. The Chargers have been an auto bet to the under all year long, other than last week, and then they flukily got over about 2 or 3 weeks ago. But other than that, they've been a low-scoring team. We saw Justin Herbert be opened up a little bit more, running that offense. They are a team that looks like they're going to start peaking at the right time. I think that was a dangerous Cincinnati team on Sunday, but I don't put any – their defense is not very good. Yeah. But neither is Baltimore's. Baltimore's secondary is not very good. They've been an auto bet to the over. So that's an interesting one for me. You got an auto bet to the over versus an auto bet to the under, but heading the right direction offensively in the Chargers. So the other one, the Packers and 49ers. Packers coming off a lucky win against the Bears that everybody thought was dead. Now they host San Francisco. You get the whole
just lost at home to Seattle. That's a demoralizing loss. This kind of feels like an eliminator game in November.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. San Francisco's 5-5, so they are definitely an eliminator game for them. Packers still 7-3, but that's a big one. There's a lot of sneaky good games. The Eagles going to the Rams this week.
And that kind of sets up a thing for next week too. Philadelphia plays Baltimore next week. So, I mean, obviously the Rams and Chargers will have the full attention of Philly and Baltimore going into, this weekend's action, but knowing that those two play next week is maybe something, to put a pin in, to look forward to, because that's going to be stylistically 2 very different ball games.
Yeah. Rams are Philly 5-0 against the spread, their last 5 on the road, and actually are playing really, really well right now, but playing inferior competition. So you got to be careful about that this time of year on who's playing whom. It's not just the record and the streaks, but it's who are they playing. This Arizona team continues to get no credit. They're going to Seattle. We just saw them upset San Francisco. Arizona 5-1 against the spread, their last 5 games. Seattle's staying under almost always when they play at home against Arizona. So their defense seems to show up, which is really the difference in Seattle winning or not winning. If they play good defense, they keep it low scoring, they have a good shot, they get into some type of shootout, that's normally not where they want to be. Arizona, one of those dangerous teams. There's a bunch of these teams we're going to be talking about in January that I don't think we thought we would be in the preseason, and Denver's another one of those teams, although we did have over with Arizona, their win total this year. So Denver 5-1 against the spread, their last 5 on the road, and covered 4 of their last 5 overall. And offensively, at least if you look at last week, turning the corner a little bit. Tampa Bay going to the Giants. This is one of those sneaky games that Tampa Bay needs to go up and take care of business. The TCB, as Kramer used to say, TCB, taking care of business. Tampa Bay needs to go do that because the Giants, I don't think are horrible. They don't win, but
They benched their quarterback though. Are going to be you're going to trust in Tommy DeVito to lead you to the promised land?
Yeah, and that's the problem here. Daniel Jones, his body language is horrible.
Mm-hmm.
He underperforms versus what everybody thinks they should do, and the problem is he'll go good, horrible. His
And then
of
be
the snaps.
bad, horrible, and then good.
When I watch him, I see 3 or 4 good decisions and then one horrible decision.
Mm-hmm.
He 75% of the time he does pretty well, but he'll take 3 steps forward and then a giant step back. That can't be trusted, and you can see that the coaching staff has given up on that. Had before last week too, but just missing wide open guy. You can't, when you're not great anyway, miss wide open receivers for 20-yard gains, and he does that. The Bucs a 5-point favorite, and to your point, I mean, in college I would say, listen, I think Jones will be back in the game before the end of the game. In the NFL, they generally will let you play it out. So even if DeVito stinks, they're not going to pull him midway through the game for Daniel Jones. It's just a different mindset. But the Bucs need to go up there and take, because the rest of that team is better than everybody thinks. Still not good, but better than everybody thinks. And you've got both these teams coming off a bye, so they should be rested. And Tampa Bay, trying to keep their playoff hopes alive, need a win on the road big time there. So how are we doing on time, Brandon?
We need to get out of here.
Okay, so second free winner, Tampa Bay. I do think they go keep it on. They get it done. I don't believe in Tommy DeVito. I don't think they'll make the change. I think New York Giants coach is upset again. He's been upset most of the year. Play the Bucs minus the points and go to fatjacksports.com. Get this guaranteed weekend win this week, or you get the rest of the month for free. Pay about $70 a week to win through the Super Bowl. Brandon, everybody out there, drive safely. Don't drink and drive. Wager responsibly. Have a great Thanksgiving. We get back, we'll be talking about the holiday season. Get signed up today. Enjoy your holiday week. And until next week, for Brandon Rush and the Fat Jack, this has been the Fat Jack Sports Hour.
Hey guys, this is the Fat Jack. Are you finally ready to get a better plan betting the games this year? Let me help. Go to fatjacksports.com, where we understand that it's not the gambling she hates, it's the losing. fatjacksports.com.